lightning speed to the city streets. We began to feel the fire.
Beng Mealea. Beng Mealea was built in the middle of the 12th century, with later additions during the reign of Suryavarman II. It is in the style of Angkor Wat and is dedicated to Hinduism. 40 kilometers due east from Angkor Wat, take the road to Banteay Srey. At the fork, 2 kilometers before Banteay Srey, 31 kilometers from the Grand Hotel, Siem Reap, and 17.5 kilometers from the village of Phnompenh, take the right fork. Continue for 8 kilometers and at the crossroads turn right. After another 26 kilometers you reach a T-junction. Turn left here and after 11 kilometers you reach the south gate of the temple. Inquire about the condition of the road before setting out. It may be impassable in the wet season and certain makeshift bridges were constructed. Total is 77 kilometers from Siem Reap. Though unrestored and in a fairly ruinous state, the large temple of Beng Mealea Lotus Pond, some 40 kilometers due east of Angkor on the ancient royal way to the Great Preah Khan of Kampong Svei, another 60 kilometers further on, is one of the major monuments of the classical period, in the style of Angkor Wat and roughly contemporary with it. Whoever built it must have been a figure of some importance, but he remains unknown, as no inscriptions have been found here, and no other that mentions it. Its position was strategic, with a royal way to Koh Ker in the northeast forks from Road E to the Great Preah Khan, and also at the head of a canal that leads directly to the Great Lake, down which sandstone blocks from the nearby quarries could have been floated on their way to Angkor. Its chaotic state, with collapsed galleries and towers, the central sanctuary is virtually a pit, with no superstructure whatsoever, may be due to a variety of causes. The most important is simply the wear and tear of 8.5 centuries in a tropical climate, with a spread of vegetation, including the silk cotton tree and strangler fig, going to work on some ambitious vaulting which was being tried out here and at Angkor Wat for the first time. It is not known whether there was any iconoclasm, a possibility whenever there is evidence of different faiths practiced, as here. Happily, there is no evidence of recent looting. There is a considerable disorder, but very romantic for all that. Many of the early French scholars thought highly of this temple for both its architecture and its decoration. Coeds made a special study of its carving, and Grosslier considered it to be a prototype, with a harmony powerful and sober. Its history is completely unknown, and it can be dated only by its style, which is of the mid-12th century. Beng Mealea was built of blue sandstone from local quarries, and while there are no narrative bas-relief panels as at Angkor Wat, there is a fair amount of decoration on walls and pilasters, all of a high standard, as well as operas, lintels, and few pediments. The religious history is also unknown, with carvings showing legends of Vishnu, Shiva, and the Buddha. The temple marked the center of a town, surrounded by a moat 1025 m by 875 m and 45 m wide. 4 paved avenues lead via cruciform terraces to the entrances at the cardinal points, and it is oriented to the E. Directly to the E of the complex is a large beret, with a small island containing a shrine in its center, as usual. In plan, Beng Mealea reminds one of Angkor Wat, though all at ground level with no temple mountain. There are 3 concentric enclosures, each one set back slightly to the west, with the central shrine at the intersection of the axes, and so the intersection of the town's avenues as well. These enclosures are tied together with cruciform cloisters, just as at Angkor Wat, and in the NE and SE corners of the enclosures are shrines of the kind known wrongly as libraries. Also, as at Angkor Wat, Beng Mealea has some impressive stone vaulting and half-vaults that work as a kind of buttressing. Without the ample space that there is at Angkor Wat, all these interconnecting galleries would be confusing enough, even if the temple were in a restored condition. In addition, however, there have been additions, such as the raised causeways and probably the cruciform terraces, possibly also the 2 large galleried structures that fill the space between the second and outer enclosures on the south side. In its present state, this last is a warren of stone and vegetation. Unlike Ta Prom's controlled wild state where the undergrowth is cut back, Beng Mealea is genuinely uncleared, the real thing for would-be explorers. You will need the services of a local guide, which is to say one of the villagers, and by the end of the visit, you will be happy to pay for being taken around the tortuous route. This involves clambering through small spaces and along rooftops, although in time this may become restricted as access comes under the control of the Angkor authorities. The state of the temple means that access is not by the obvious routes, and there are several ways of visiting. The route given here has been worked out by local guides, and shows most of what is interesting. Begin at the S gate of the outer enclosure, a short walk or drive from the road. Walk east along the outside of the wall to the SE corner pavilion. Here is excellent decorative carving on the walls, and a group of devatas, very clearly in the style of Angkor Wat, with stylized large folds of the sarong flying out left and right from above the belt. The expressions of these girls are particularly serene, and one is, unusually, cupping her bare breast. The guides never fail to point this out. Continue around the outside of the east side, to the cruciform terrace, raised on circular columns, with the remains of Naga balustrades. The rearing five-headed Nagas are magnificent and elaborately decorated, each with a proboscis and all tied together with a large, arrow-like halo. The route continues past the northeast corner pavilion and rounds to the north side, where several meters beyond it is easy to clamber over. Here you face one of the raised libraries. Walk left around this to the end of the small raised causeway that connects it to the cruciform cloister. For once, it is possible to use a doorway. Once through, turn right, and head W into the second enclosure, following the ledge on the inside of the gallery. Enter the gallery of the inner enclosure a few steps S of the corner. On your left are the barely recognizable shrine and its vestibule, with a fallen lintel showing the churning of the sea of milk. It is possible to walk around the upper part of the shrine, as the tower has completely collapsed. From here, it is necessary to clamber southwards and up onto the roof of the NS Axial Gallery. On either side, as you walk, there are views of the additional southern complexes. Descend to the left and enter a dark but impressive long vaulted gallery, running WE along one side of one of these structures, exiting opposite the library of the SE corner. Turn right and you can climb out over the outer gallery. At this point, an unusual pediment over the door to your right shows a god riding a rhinoceros. This is Agni, the god of fire, guardian of the SE, which accounts for his position in this part of the temple.